sideways pocket that goes like that.
Okay, so let's just put this right here.
You do it how you want it done. And I'm glad you look like it's winter too. I was afraid somebody's going to come in and be looking like it's summer, and I'm looking like it's winter, and we're both crazy.
Right. Okay, should I use this microphone, this lamp up here? The antenna is broken on yours. Does that matter? Huh? Okay. Okay. I'm ready.
Let me blow my nose.
Okay, tell me a little bit again what you want to talk about.
I want to make sure that people know that I'll be back on April 16 for book signing, that the book will be available in Greenville. It's available online. And it's a story of an important chapter in history. And it's a memoir of work that I did in Greenville. It's two very interesting things. And I got some great comments on the back. The first comprehensive treatment of the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party in book-length form. And there are very few. It's so difficult to write about the experience of a volunteer during that summer that very few. There are very few memoirs that are out there. Sally Belfrage wrote a book called Freedom Summer that was published in 1965. But my book looks back, was looking back 50 years, which is different. But I don't want you to ask me about Selma or Ferguson. I don't want you to ask me about Selma or Ferguson, because I have no answers on those. The struggle continues for civil rights and human rights. And we all have to be aware of the importance of voting. That a lot of people stood up and took risks for their freedom, and I want to honor them and give them credit for what they did. I write my story just to give some credibility to my ability to write the history as a participant observer.
Yeah, this is C.Sade Turnipseed, and I am going to be speaking with Ms. Lisa Anderson Todd, and I'm going to read from her book here, Lisa Anderson Todd's For a Voice and the Vote. My journey with Mississippi Freedom Democrat Party is an engrossing memoir of a seminal moment in post-World War II United States history. This work is a heartfelt, insightful examination of the challenges, complexities, triumphs, and defeats involved in the arduous struggle to transform conditions in Mississippi, the Democrat Party, and the United States. You need some more? Okay. Ms. Todd, can you go ahead? You ready for Ms. Todd?
I do have a hearing problem, so
Okay.
you can.
Okay. You need to do audio for my guest. She's done already? Oh, okay. You want to recycle my backdrop? Because you know, I know some things about. You got it? Okay. I'm ready. Okay, let's lose the water.
Put it down there.
Oh, yes, let me see. Oh, Lord. Woo! This is my new do all over the place.
Is this a new do?
This is a new do. Woohoo! Okay. I'm flashback to. I'm a period piece for your book. Okay.
My good side and my bad side.
Yeah, it's all good. So what you're going to do is always speak directly to me. Don't worry about what's going on out there. They're going to talk, and they're going to be out there making motion and looking crazy sometimes, this guy especially. And but ignore him. He's giving me cues in terms of time. So I will, wind you up or, kind of get you to wrap things up as I say we're getting ready to take a break. And then generally we have less than 10 to 15 seconds at that point, or 30, up to 30. So what I really love to do is not prepare questions. I just love to have a conversation with you, a person I haven't seen in 39 years. So we're sitting on my couch at home, and I just haven't seen you in a long time.
Right, that's right, that's right.
And so,
it's like visiting with Catherine, huh?
Yes, yes. And so the thing is that you know your story better than anybody in this world, and so I might ask a question. There's no yes or no. It's detail. And you can't talk too much. You can never, ever, ever talk too much. So just roll with it, and just own your story and explain to everybody who you are, what you've been doing, and what you're all about. And I'll just kind of direct you a little bit with questions.
Yeah,
but again, this is about you, okay? But in terms of discussion, it's about me. So you just keep focused on me.
I will.
All right, we're good. Welcome to Delta Renaissance. I'm your host, C.Sade Turnipseed, and on today's show, I am so honored to have one of the original foot soldiers, at least that's what I'm calling her, because she was there and has documented the history of the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party and that whole voters' rights initiative that we all know and love so well and just experienced with Selma. In the studio with me today is Ms. Lisa Anderson Todd. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for the invitation. I look forward to talking with you.
Before we get into your book, which is For a Voice and the Vote, My Journey with the Mississippi Freedom Democrat Party, before we get into this, I want to have a moment with you, the retired administrative judge. Wow, okay, tell us about that. Where are you from originally?
Well, very few people call me judge, I can assure you of that. But I was a judge for over 20 years. I grew up in Summit, New Jersey, a typical New York suburban town. And I grew up in a family of privilege. There's no question about that. And I'm fortunate. I went to an independent girls' school in my hometown where I gained a great deal educationally, socially, in terms of leadership, opportunities, all the extracurricular activities you could imagine, and went to Cornell University for my undergraduate. And I studied American Studies. I couldn't decide exactly what I wanted, literature or history or politics, so I combined them. And when I graduated from Cornell, at that point, I wanted to be a civil rights worker. And that was 1964. And here was this project planned primarily by SNCC, by the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, under the strong leadership of Bob Moses, who I think is a great man. And I applied for that project, and I was accepted as a voter registration volunteer because I had had a little bit of voter registration experience in North Carolina the summer before. Now, what were you going to do with a white female volunteer who wanted to be out there in voter registration? Were you going to send her out on the plantations? No, that would not be a safe thing to do. So I think that explains my assignment to Greenville, that Greenville was a more moderate climate for the races to be working together, for the local people to see young blacks and young whites on the streets. We were doing house-to-house canvassing, and we wanted people to go to the county courthouse to register to vote. There's no question that that's what had been going on in Greenville for years before summer of '64. We were building on other people's work. There's no question about that.
Right.
But the idea of the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party had preceded the summer. In April, the party was actually organized.
April 1964.
Of 1964. It was brand new. And the idea was that we were giving the party, not I, was giving people the opportunity to participate in politics, to select candidates that would that would honor their needs.
Let's unpack some of that, because there's a whole lot in there that you mentioned, and coming from New Jersey and Cornell. Did you attend Cornell? Is it a Cornell law school? Is there a law school?
There's a law school there. Well, at the end of the summer, you see, I had this decision to make. Was I going to go to law school, or was I going to stay?
Okay.
I had just gotten started doing some work in Greenville.
Gotcha.
It takes a while to build up some trust in a local community.
Absolutely do.
Yeah, so
I've been here 8 years, and I know what that's
when
like.
I got home to New Jersey at the end of the summer, my mother didn't come to greet me. My father told me she was not feeling well.
So
she was afraid that I was going to stay a year in Mississippi and do more civil rights work and not go to law school. And I couldn't handle that. So I said, I'll go to law school.
to make her comfortable and relaxed.
Comfortable and relaxed.
Okay.
I mean, your parents are important to you.
Absolutely. For sure. So,
sometimes you have to break with them, but other
your own
times
path,
you
you gotta-
honor their wishes.
you absolutely do, especially if they're paying, and like you're saying, you come from a privileged family and a background, so I know they were paying your tuition to go to school.
Right. My father was a lawyer. He thought it'd be wonderful if I became a lawyer just like
him.
just like him.
But I want to know, did you have the occasion to meet Ella Baker? Did you work with her at all?
I didn't. No, I didn't. I was not a member of SNCC. I was not close to SNCC. I always looked onto SNCC as these are the important people. These are the people who are taking risks.
Right.
And Ella Baker was so significant for SNCC, for the organization,
Right.
and for all those people. I heard her speak but I never had the opportunity to on a one-on-one to
So
talk to her.
it was Bob Moses' decision to send you to Greenville.
Somebody's decision. I don't know how that worked, but we were in orientation.
Yeah.
See, I got my assignment before I left
Right.
Oxford, Ohio. We had the orientation for the summer project
in Ohio.
in Ohio.
We're going to take a break, but I want to come back and talk more about Greenville as opposed to Greenwood. You know, and what the dynamics there, and did you actually, you know, get a chance to go through the Delta and really see those foot soldiers that you talk about and meet Fannie Lou Hamer? And so we'll be back, and we're going to take a break, and we're coming right back with Ms. Lisa Anderson Todd. Okay. Welcome back. I'm in the studio with Ms. Lisa Anderson Todd, retired judge and now author of this wonderful book that I have yet to read, but I can tell you right now, it's a wonderful book. It's called For a Voice and the Vote, My Journey with the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party. And it's a significant work. You have reviews from Professor Dittner, and I love his work. And if he's saying this is okay, you must trust. This book is comprehensive and apparently the first to be bound in such a volume and documenting the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party and its journey. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about your experience with the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party and how you got, you know, how you found Greenville, and did you get a chance to, you know, really work with the folks like Fannie Lou Hamer? Yeah.
That's a lot to talk about right there.
Yeah.
I did know Fannie Lou Hamer. Let's start there. I was on a service project at Tougaloo College in July of 1963, and we went up to Greenwood as a group to see the SNCC operations. We were invited by the staff there, and we broke up in the evening to go to different locations. I wanted to go to Clarksdale and see Aaron Henry, but it would have been an integrated car, and the SNCC guys wouldn't go with me. So somehow the transportation was a little bit different, and I went to Ruleville, and I had dinner at Fannie Lou Hamer's house.
Wow.
And we invited her to sit with us, eating her dinner. She
Wow.
was standing in the kitchen door. And then I saw her again at the district caucus of the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party. It was held in Greenville at the Friendship Baptist Church. And I reminded her of being at her home, and she gave me one of those, you know, big bear hugs.
Special Fannie Lou
yes,
Hamer
yes,
hugs, huh?
Yes. So
Wow.
that's a thrill
Yes.
for me
Yes.
and a wonderful memory.
And I think
Because-
maybe we should back up and say, what were the racial dynamics at that time, your personal experience?
I had no background for this other than this summer when I happened to want to do service work. And it was a project sponsored by the World Council of Churches at Tougaloo. We were doing maintenance work. We were helping at the college, but we were learning about the civil rights movement. I wasn't demonstrating in the North. I wasn't out in the streets. I wasn't involved before I came to Mississippi. What I learned about Mississippi made me want to come back. I did not feel that I should abandon these people, forget about them. They've got their problems. I'm going to go my way.
But what was it that inspired you to go to the organizing session in the first place?
Well, that's one of the great questions. Why is it that, what was it in me, my background, my parents, my family growing up, where I gained those values somewhere? And how that comes about for some people and not for others has been one of the challenges in writing the book. Because I've always said, well, I was in Mississippi the summer before, and I saw the situation, and I wanted to help.
Okay.
But it's more than that.
Yeah.
And
it
more
is. You
yeah.
have to have something in your soul, in your spirit, and
Yeah,
just to be human, really. You got to be humane and somehow
Right.
connected to spirit, or something.
Somebody
to
said
know.
that to me this morning. It's got to be
Really?
in your heart.
Yeah.
Went to the prayer breakfast at the Catholic Church first
Okay.
thing this morning.
Wow. Okay.
It's been a long day.
So.
The racial dynamics in Greenville was better than most places in the state. There's no question about
In
that.
Mississippi, yeah.
In Mississippi, we had Police Chief Burnley was not like the Sheriff Clark and these people that you read about as being so anxious to take out everything on blacks, the violent treatment that was so awful. And the mayor was behind. The city fathers, you had leading citizens, you had a history of cultural divergence. You had so many different groups that have built Greenville. That the city, the people in the Greenvillians, understood outsiders, understood different types of people. We were more apt to be welcomed here than in a more insulated town in Mississippi.
Though, and you said something interesting earlier, that you were assigned here because there wasn't as many plantations, or apparently there wasn't the plantation system as much as other places. But I always felt that Greenville did have a lot of plantations, but I guess.
Well, the danger, you remember, there was danger for a black man to be seen with a white woman.
Yes.
He was at risk.
Yes, lynching was real.
And in Greenville, it was less apt to be a problem.
Okay.
And we were living with black families. We were I lived with Mr. and Mrs. Jerry Britton, and I had more interaction with Mrs. Britton than with Mr. Britton, but there could have been a problem.
Have you checked?
But there wasn't.
That family, is that family still here?
I'm not sure about the family's descendants, but I did come back the summer of 1965. I had a position as a law clerk in the state of Mississippi, and I looked up Mrs. Britton. They owned a drugstore on North Street, just off Nelson Street, and she gave an oral interview, which is in the library, which mentions me.
Oh.
That I was better dressed when I came back in '65 than I was in '64.
Did she say that? That's cute.
So I have those little stories in the book.
In the book, okay.
Yeah.
So now, again,
what did I leave out?
Oh, I mean, I know. Again, I'm going to read this book, but it's just to tell us, not only what's in it, but what did you learn from it? How did it truly impact you? And we have to go to break, so I know I'm opening up a big old can of worms here, but I want you to reflect on that as we do go to break, because it's like, what are the big, big lessons, even though you had it in your heart already to have some empathy and have some understanding or wanting to learn, about African Americans who were being so disenfranchised here in the Mississippi Delta and throughout the South. And again, what did you take away, from that experience, even though you were already, I think somehow connected, but still, I know you learned a lot in the process. So again, we're going to take a break. We're going to come back and talk
And this was with me,
all these
you know,
years.
all those years.
Okay.
And I was buying books, but I wasn't.
Okay.
But I wasn't living the movement. I didn't get in the women's movement. I didn't get in the peace movement. I didn't do these things like everybody else.
Hold that. I want you to say that.
I know.
All right. Okay. Welcome back. I'm in the studio talking to Lisa Anderson Todd, having a very, very rich conversation. And it's so beautiful, you know, again, to sit with you and to just try to pull out in 30 minutes, you know, a lifetime. How long did it take you to finish? Or even when you began, I know you probably had been marinating these experiences from when you were first here in '64 and '65, and then when you came back again, and over the course of the last 50 years. Again, when did you actually start writing?
In April 2008,
Okay.
I retired, and I started the next day, and I told my colleagues that I was going to write a book about my civil rights experiences in Mississippi. Most of my colleagues didn't know that I had ever been a civil rights worker. And I said that because I didn't want to be in a position where I could quit. That's how I made my commitment to finish the book. I went to law school right after the summer of '64. And then I got started in the War on Poverty program. I did some of my legal work there. But then I went into private practice. I got into government contracts work. And I was buying books as they came out, particularly about the Mississippi movement. And then I would discover I had already bought the book. You know, I didn't have time to read them, but and I've always been a book collector, so I was collecting the books. I have a wonderful library at home, and when after 20 years at the Armed Services Board of Contract Appeals and the NASA board before that, I felt comfortable with the work, what I was doing. It was fascinating. I had a great job, and I had the ability to travel, and I was conducting hearings and writing decisions, deciding some important matters with colleagues. And I said, I want to do something else. I want to write about something that's more interesting to me.
Do you think that if you had shared that early on, that there would have been some sort of repercussions in your career as a judge? Or
I don't think so. I don't think so. But I was just driven. You know, I was going to be a successful lawyer. It wasn't. So this has been a wonderful experience.